A finite simple group of order 2 is, in my humble opinion, the best love song in existence. Unfortunately, it has a major flaw. It's incomprehensible to people who don't study math. I learned a good amount of this math in the first year of my PhD. That means you can't just have sort of liked math or sort of been good at it in school. You really have to seriously study it in order to fully understand this song. This series of videos is going to be for people like myself who study math but have a significant other who does not study math. Through the series of videos, we will finally be able to properly express the depth of our feelings through the greatest love song of all time. The path of love is never smooth, but mine's continuous for you. So the cleverest thing about this song is when it uses technical math words in a way that don't seem out of place in a love song. The first two lines of this song are a great example of this. You might remember the word continuous from high school algebra class. You had to graph these things called functions, and continuous meant you could draw it without picking up your pencil. Smooth is actually another word that describes these functions just more specific. A smooth function basically means you can draw it without making any jerky movements with your pencil. So here is a function that's continuous but not smooth because we had a jerky movement there. And here is a function that is smooth. The path of love is never smooth, but mine's continuous for you. You're the upper bound in the chains of my heart. You're my axiom of choice, you know it's true. Upper bounds and chains reference a much more advanced result in math called Zorn's lemma, but the concept is really simple. A chain is just a list of things, numbers or other things, mathematicians like to use things other than numbers, that are in order. And an upper bound is just what it sounds like, something at least as big as everything in the chain. For example, 2 is less than 3 is less than 4 is a chain, and one possible upper bound is 5. Another possible upper bound is 4. Each of these are at least as big as everything in the chain. And another possible upper bound is 100. This doesn't seem like a very useful concept, so here's a better example. 0.9 is less than 0.99 is less than 0.999 is less than 0.9999, and so on forever. That's a chain that goes on forever, and one possible upper bound for it is 1. Another possible upper bound might be 2 or 3, doesn't matter. But the 1 upper bound is interesting in this case. In fact, we call this a least upper bound because it is the smallest possible upper bound. You being the upper bound in the chains of my heart means you're at least as big or as important as everything in my heart. That's a pretty romantic. The next line is a reference to the axiom of choice. The axiom of choice says that if you have a bunch of balls in a bunch of different boxes, you can pick one ball out of each box. That's all it says. It's possible to do this. This may seem obvious, but apparently it's less obvious if you have infinitely many boxes. This is something that math people like to think about. The thing that really shows you that the axiom of choice is not obvious is all the other things that it's equivalent to in math. Apparently, if the axiom of choice is true, then Zorn's lemma is also true. Zorn's lemma is the thing that was mentioned in the previous line with the upper bounds and the chains. Is that true? Who knows? Who cares? Can't tell. Apparently, if the axiom of choice is true, there's this other thing called the Banach-Tarski paradox, which is also true. This one's super weird. The Banach-Tarski paradox says that if you have a hollow ball, you can cut it up into pieces and rearrange them and glue them back together to make 2 new hollow balls of the same size as the original ball. Like, this means if you have 2 kids that are arguing over who gets to play with the only available basketball, you say, oh, don't worry, we'll cut it up and we'll make 2 of them. They'll look just like this one. What in the world? That is messed up. But if the axiom of choice is true, that means you can make 2 basketballs out of 1. So there you have it. Now you understand the entire first verse of this nerdy math song. The path of love is never smooth, but mine's continuous for you. You're the upper bound in the chains of my heart. You're my axiom of choice, you know it's true. Tune in next week for the next verse.